So, we did take a look at the work that CLA did and completed last May. And then there were some follow-up audits as well. So some of the accusations that were made by the individual from central office who was leaving were related to, financial mismanagement, specifically of special education funds. The CLA report that was completed last May identified, didn't actually state that there was financial misfeasance. It did point out some opportunities from a process improvement standpoint that the schools went on to tackle. And there was an IDEA grant audit that was done by the state, and that came back clean, right? So that was actually a formal audit that the state does periodically, and they looked at the usage of those funds, and what they came up with was that there was no misuse of that grant funding, right? So there's been sort of multiple data points that say that there wasn't financial misfeasance, which were, some allegations that were made by that individual who departed from central office. There was actually a follow-up CLA report or sort of analysis that was done over the last several weeks. As of, let's see, actually, I don't know if it'll show up in tomorrow's select board meeting or not. But there was a draft of it that was shared on March 31st. And based on what CLA found, was that the schools have actually addressed the majority of the opportunities that they had identified in last year's analysis. And overall, the disposition was positive, right? They even make a statement that, overall the disposition is positive. There's a couple things to sort of close out. And that was part of the recommendation that the ENR committee had made that, we thought it would be helpful to have a third party to come back and actually look at this. And so CLA was enlisted to do that work. The final report has not been published, but that interim report was published, and I expect the final report will be published any day now. David or Bob, somebody else on this call might have actually seen that before it's been made public. So I think overall, a positive trajectory. I think and I think the third party reviews are actually incredibly helpful. And so I think that that's, sort of critical for the community to understand. And there's one other thing that I did want to point out is that, I think for a lot of people, they watched the budget process for fiscal 26, and that was a really bumpy process, right? So myself included, as a parent of two students in PSB, I think the process was not ideal last year. And I will say that the process this year was also very different, having sort of watched that one very, very closely, and having watched the prior one, primarily on Zoom. And I think that a lot of that is really due to the new leadership that we have in the central office. So that can't be sort of understated. What a critical component of the puzzle that is.